the person declined to be heard. The person did not show up before the committee. And the offer was either to appear in person or by advocate. The person did not appear. The allegations are being made against people who, like every one of us, have a right to a good reputation. People who have been serving us diligently. And if I may go back, a few months before this happened, there had been serious allegations that vehicles had been broken in at the Senate parking. Police got involved. The CCTV reels were run. Even some had not parked their vehicles there on that day. It is just that the secretariat, led by the clerk, decided to cool things off and to let those senators go. So this idea of making wild allegations must come to an end. If you can't prove it, shut up. Correct. And to say that it's impossible to prove this kind of thing is not true with the kind of technology we have today. With keyhole cameras, even sunglasses like the ones worn by the indomitable senator of Nandi can be used to record things. So I really think that what we should really concern ourselves is the kind of sanctions that have been proposed against Senator Gloria Orwoba'S. I think they're a bit draconian. We can shorten the term and make an apology. We come from a tradition that says that when you bite your tongue, you cannot spit out all the blood. You may have to swallow some. So let us swallow some of the blood. Let us punish, not to kill, but to correct. And I think that as a house, we owe it to ourselves to be our brothers' keepers. And I use the word brothers to include even women, but that's how the idiom is. You cannot modify an English idiom. So don't accuse me of being gender biased when I say to be a brother's keeper. What happened at creation time, it was two brothers who fought. So I pray that I support this report. I pray that we adopt the report, but we modify the punishment. And I would recommend that the period of suspension be shorter, and that the apology be rendered not just to this House, but to the members of staff who are maligned. I think Mr. Nyegenye deserves a direct apology. A written apology, not just the House. Because the House was not insulted. It was individuals who were insulted, and let us modify the report to include an apology directed at the staff members who were affected by the vitriol that spewed out from our sisters. It was not lips, it was our sister's fingers when she typed on the keyboard of her phone or whatever gadget she was using. With those few remarks, I support the report.
Senator Tobiko Pelis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity, and I arise to reject the report, Mr. Speaker, or to oppose the report, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do agree, because of seeing on our WhatsApp pages, the kind of character and wordings that have been on the page from Senator Orwoba'S, which is not fit, Mr. Speaker, for a leader at this level. But, Mr. Speaker, what I oppose in this report, Mr. Speaker, is a kind of punishment that's being meted on Senator Orwoba. Mr. Speaker, I believe there was a better way for this House to deal with this matter. Even, Mr. Speaker, it should not have reached at this level for it to be on the floor of the House, for the entire public to be entertained with the kind of shenanigans that we have seen going on, Mr. Speaker. It's not good for Senator Orwoba, neither is it good for the clerk, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House has an integrity. This House has some standards to maintain, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot of things go on. And I just want to tell our younger sisters who are joining politics now that in the political field, you'll hear so much. You will go through so much. I'm not telling them to keep quiet, but I'm telling them to know the way to handle. Because the way you jump through the hurdles is what will determine your success tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our sister, Senator Gloria, had better ways of dealing with this. She should have appeared before the committee. She should have given evidence. But, Mr. Speaker, as earlier speakers have said, we do not know what exactly we are dealing with in terms of the mental health of our sister. Maybe she needs to be given time. Maybe she's dealing with bigger matters than even this one, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the frustrations can be a lot, even from the kind of work we do, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I would say that Senator Orwoba may not have handled herself in a way that is acceptable, but the punishment that is being meted here, Mr. Speaker, I think has gone overboard, Mr. Speaker. It is excessive, it is insensitive, it's inconsiderate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am not trying to water down the effects of this on the clerk, Mr. Speaker. But I believe even the House leadership should have dealt with this matter better. That this was not meant for a public forum like this, Mr. Speaker. It was not meant to reach here, Mr. Speaker. The House leadership should have done better, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I arise to say that the punishment that is prescribed in this report is not fair, should not happen, and Mr. Speaker, better ways of dealing with this situation should be gotten, Mr. Speaker. But either way, Mr. Speaker, without telling ladies to be silent on what they go through, I would also tell our sisters that, people asking sexual favors will now depend completely on you, on whether you reject or accept. It is really upon you. What we would have gone to the rooftops, we would have gone to the top of KICC, is if our sister was sexually molested, raped taken advantage of without consent, Mr. Speaker. That one, we would have gone to the top of KICC to shout against. But without proof, we are put in a very awkward situation on how to defend her. We are put in a very awkward situation knowing that the clerk is a family person, and so is Senator Orwoba, Mr. Speaker. This House has not been given sufficient facts to be able to conclusively deal with this case, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, there was no way we could take the hammer against Senator Orwoba, neither were we going to tell her to be silent if she has gone through the kind of harassment that is alleged here, Mr. Speaker. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will just tell the members of this House to consider fairly both the accused and the accuser, Mr. Speaker, that we should take our time to know really what the Honorable Senator has gone through. Because I don't believe in the right state of mind, she can just put wild allegations that do not hold water. Maybe the way she has approached the whole matter is what is a problem here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also don't imagine that the clerk with a reputation and a long-standing experience in this House, and there has never been any allegations, it is something that baffles. It's only the two of them that will be able to really come out clean on this matter. Either way, Mr. Speaker, the House leadership, according to me, the back lies with the House leadership. They have failed to really protect the integrity of this House by solving this matter at a very early stage, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I arise to oppose. Thank you.
Senator Beatrice Akinyi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to this motion that we least expected we'd use the floor of the Senate to discuss. Honorable Speaker, I want to begin by giving a short occurrence in my village and other villages, Honorable Speaker, that there are notorious women in my village who, when they beat their husbands, they make the loudest noise. And Honorable Speaker, even though the community knows that these women physically molest their husbands, when they do it, they're the first to come out of the buildings making the loudest noise. And Honorable Speaker, men equally have suffered in this country at the hands of women. And in most of organizations, Honorable Speaker, at my level, and I was young then, younger than even Senator Gloria and a number of us here. As old as we were once young. And in practice, Honorable Speaker, I do not see anybody here who doesn't have the capacity to say no when there are advances made against them. Because then why would they be here? Honorable Speaker, as I am a woman senator, but it is important that Kenyans take note that as women, we cannot continue to use the gender card to harass men left and right. And here we are talking about sexual harassment. And sexual harassment is not only limited to women and to men. Honorable Speaker, there are women who continuously harass men for sex. And if we went further, Honorable Speaker, we'd find a situation where the people making allegations are the ones harassing the men, even here, more. Honorable Speaker, who cannot say no? We want people to come out and say that I'm here and I'm not able to say no when there's an advance. And Honorable Speaker, we have serious issues to talk about in the Senate, and some of these issues are not the issues we are going to talk about. Honorable Speaker, this issue...
Order members, order. Senator Mundigi, order.
Honorable Speaker, this is not the first time
that you are exhibiting are really, these men are very happy that you are able.
Honorable Speaker, I can tell you, given an opportunity and out of the floor here, you'll find that it is some of these women that are harassing these men. On the floor of this House, Honorable Speaker, this motion came up. And what were we treated to, Honorable Speaker? We respected the fact that our majority and minority leader came to stand down the motion. Our expectation, Honorable Speaker, is this was going to be handled elsewhere. We did not expect that we are going to take weeks and then be treated to the same story. But now that it has come, let us say the truth. That women cannot continue, because you are women, to harass men over sex. And even though we keep on saying young what? Who is a child here? How did, Honorable Speaker, how did we end up with children in the Senate? Honorable Speaker, once the minority leader and the minority leader came in, we saw what happened, because this motion, the content of discussion here has been an issue of a WhatsApp, an official WhatsApp communication. But what did we see as senators? The conversation continued from the same senator. And that is a sign that they was not ready to even go for mediation and even listen. Honorable Speaker, alternative dispute resolution is a mechanism enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya. But Honorable Speaker, if somebody is not ready to listen, if they are not ready to listen to leadership, to listen to anybody here, to listen to colleagues, what then do we do? But wise people say, Honorable Speaker, is that when you are in a hole, you should also stop digging. And Honorable Speaker, let me remind ourselves that as senators, I believe all of us signed the code of conduct, even with our parties are nominating parties. But this House is here to protect the Constitution. And the Constitution is very clear about leadership. Leadership and integrity. That talks about personal integrity. That talks about respect for others. That talks about a leader conducting themselves to bring dignity to the office that you hold. Honorable Speaker, is what the senator doing bringing any dignity to her office as a nominated senator or as to the Senate as a house? Honorable Speaker, the same Constitution talks about the rights. And the rights are not limited to women. The rights are limited to the rights of women and men. And it talks about to equal rights to equal protection. Honorable Speaker, let us not delude ourselves that if you have had an opportunity to be a member of this House, thousands of Kenyans are out there that should have been here. And you want to behave as if you are above rules and laws. Honorable Speaker, leadership requires that you behave with decorum, that you respect each other, that you maintain some discipline, that you maintain some personal integrity. Honorable Speaker, I'm not saying that our sisters should be axed out of this Senate. But I'm saying that as senators, some of us came to the Senate by choice because we believed it is a house of order, a house of sobriety, a house of discipline, but not what we are seeing. Honorable Speaker, I support that motion, and as I support it, I want to say that Parliament should not be used as a house to seek attention. And if you are seeking attention, Honorable Speaker, I think you should seek it elsewhere and not a House of Parliament. So, Honorable Speaker, I support the motion, and I want to advise for anybody who listens, because a number of senators who think they are young and who believe we were never young once think they cannot listen to others. Honorable Speaker, I support this motion, and I want to say, Honorable Speaker, as I end, that alternative dispute resolution must be used as a mechanism of sorting out conflicts, but end up by saying, Honorable Speaker, we should stop digging holes when we are already in one. And Honorable Speaker, why I say this is that even after the allegations about the clerk, we have seen the same conflict move from officer to officer. We have seen the same conflict move from senator to senator. We have seen the same abuse directed to other senators. Are these not people who also have rights to protection? Honorable Speaker, I support.
Thank you, Senator David Wakoli.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, Wakenya wanatazama kwa makini sana yale tunajadili. Wakenya wanajua fika kwamba walipigia viongozi timamu, watu wazima kura. Na hawakuchagua watu kwa sababu ya urembo, sura, ulimi, mate. Walichagua watu ambao wana akili timamu. Mheshimiwa Spika, haiwezi kwamba mtu anapita barabarani, anatabasamu, anatembea katika barase za mji na katika majengo ya bunge, na binti mmoja ambaye anadhani kwamba ni mrembo kwa wote, anapomwona banati anapita, anapiga nduru akisema ananimezea mate. Mheshimiwa, ni tabia mbovu. Umenke ama jinsia ya mtu haimpi ruhusu kudunisha mwingine. Yale tumeona kwenye mitandao, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kinaya sana. Mbunge, seneta anaandika matamshi ama maneno yasiyoweza someka na waseneta wenye hadhi na tajriba ambayo tumo hapa sasa. Nilikuwa katika vikao hivyo, Mheshimiwa Spika. Binti huyu amejipodoa sawa, amekuja na mawakili na majalada wamebeba mazito sawa, lakini ndani ya majalada haya hamna chochote kutisha maseneta kwamba ameleta mawakili. Wengine wetu ni walimu, si mawakili, lakini tunatumia hekima zaliwa ile tulaziliwa nayo. Na tulijadili tukaona huyu msichana anahitaji matibabu, madaktari wako hapa. Huo ni mtazamo wangu, Mheshimiwa Boni Khalwale. Either apewe dawa apone, ama kuna wale madaktari wa akili ambao watakaa naye wamsikize, kama ni nyimbo wamwimbie, kama ni maombi mabishop wako hapa wamuombee, ili jumba la Senate likose kuwa kicheko kwa Wakenya. Nimeona wa maseneta wanawake hapa ambao wanasahau kwamba watahitaji wanaume siku zijazo. Lazima wavumilie. Vijana kama mimi ambao tutataka kuongeza wake, lazima tuvumilie. Lakini si kwamba nikikutazama na kutaka, hapana, wenda na kuhurumia. Mheshimiwa, kule kwetu sema, ukimwona binti unapopita, mara unapiga milunzi na kila mara anageuka kutazama, anafikiria huenda mwanya katika midomo yake inakupendeza, kumbe ni tabia yake mbaya inakufanya unataka kukimbia kama umemwona nyoka. Ndio hayo ninaona katika jumba la Senate. Na ukimwona nyoka, toroka. Yale ambayo tumependekeza kama komiti na mamlaka na heshima ya bunge ni kali sawa, lakini unapoyavulia lazima uyaoge. Na muonea huruma, tunaweza punguza nusu. Lakini mwezi mmoja matibabu, alafu miezi miwili nje ya bunge. Hiyo ni miezi ngapi? 3. Na nyinyi mnajua mambo ni matatu. Mheshimiwa Spika, sitaki kupita hapo, lakini naomba maseneta tutembee pamoja, tufanye kazi pamoja, tuwe na heshima. Kiongozi kama Nyegenye amechukua miaka mingi, amesoma na tajriba, ana familia, ana hadhi, anatambulika kote ulimwenguni. Haiwezekani mtoto bado ananyonya anakuja kumpaka tope. Haiwezekani. Sasa sisi tutasimama na mapendekezo na nadhani kwamba heshima itadumu katika jumba la Senate. Kwa hayo mengi, wanaume wenzangu, tukaze kamba. Tujitetee tunapotetea wanawake, lakini wasitumie ume wetu kama donda ambalo watafanyia mzaha. Na nikimalizia, nyenye mnakumbuka kuna matamshi wamekuwa wakisema kama una kile kitu atikitumie kikupe kile unachotaka. Sijui ni kitu gani, nyinyi shangaeni tu, hata mimi nashangaa ni kitu gani. Lakini hicho kitu ni katiba. Tutumie, tujilinde, tujitetee, wanaume kwa wanawake. Jumba la Senate lisonge mbele. Asante sana.
Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to contribute to this very important report tabled by one of the most important committees we have in this House. Mr. Speaker, Parliament, including National Assembly and the Senate, is a workplace. And it is a unique workplace that has staff of Parliamentary Service Commission brought to provide services to elected members, senators and National Assembly members. Mr. Speaker, we then have senators and members of the National Assembly part of this workplace, but properly speaking, employees of the people being provided services by the Parliamentary Service Commission. Mr. Speaker, I have looked at the Parliamentary Service Commission HR policy, and matters sexual harassment and other harassment is addressed only to the extent that it touches on members of staff. But we currently only use the standing orders, the Committee on Powers and Privilege, which is not in fact given detailed guidance on how to deal with allegations. Mr. Speaker, it is possible that we can have sexual harassment between members of Parliament, between a member and staff, between staff and a member. Mr. Speaker, those are serious allegations. So where serious allegations have been made on sexual misconduct, Mr. Speaker, they have to be taken seriously by the House. And if it is found that the allegations are made in the air for publicity, it is important that we discourage such behavior. World over, allegations of sexual harassment have brought down very powerful people. They are not tolerated anywhere. It is therefore absolutely important that when anyone comes up with allegations that so-and-so has sexually harassed me, they must be able, for the sake of the rights of whomever they are accusing, they must be able to substantiate what they're saying. Mr. Speaker, this report shows that allegations were made, allegations were not substantiated. Mr. Speaker, those allegations were not made at the back. They were made on a forum where we all are. So if you are fair human beings and judges, you know exactly what those allegations were. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the person who was being accused is a member of staff, and we stand in power over that member of staff. They were unable to respond to anything. They have been unable to respond to this anywhere. Mr. Speaker, if this happened in the executive, I am sure there would be a defamation lawsuit in our courts that might very well yield a lot of damages. Mr. Speaker, so as we debate in this House, let us not trivialize this matter. As we debate in this House, let us remember that what we are doing now is the only recourse that the staff have against allegations made against them. Are we condoning sexual harassment? No. If anybody engages in sexual harassment and we find them culpable, Mr. Speaker, we must as a House be able to deal with this issue. And that is why when the matter went on and on and on, we suggested that the Powers and Privileges Committee sit and call the senator involved to actually bring the evidence. The report shows she was not able to do that. Mr. Speaker, I happen to come from the women's movement. And as women, we were watching closely. And I think I may have been the first person to say, if there is any allegation against the senator on sexual harassment, it must be dealt with. If you check through the WhatsApp, you will find that I insisted that the matter be investigated. Mr. Speaker, out there, we have hundreds of girls and women who are harassed, but they are not able to access justice. When we therefore, as leaders, women leaders, weaponize gender, we actually harm the women's movement. So I want to say it clearly, knowing that the public is watching, that we will defend all cases of sexual harassment, but we will not allow gender to be weaponized in order to hurt the movement for women, because we know many women are hurting out there. Mr. Speaker, sexual harassment is not about a man against a woman. It can be either way. Mr. Speaker, those involved are human beings with rights. Mr. Nyegenye has a wife, he has a daughter, he has a son. I would want to dare any of you to tell us how you would look if your daughter was told you have harassed somebody sexually. So we must protect those who are going to be hurt outside there because of our careless utterances in this House. So I would want to ask both men and women in this House to stand up for what is right, to know that you are state officers, to know that you are subject to Chapter 6 of the Constitution, and you will not use this House to individually hurt the rights of others. Mr. Speaker, as we move forward, I want to recommend that Parliamentary Service Commission use this situation and others to put a framework in place that can ensure protection of those who may be sexually harassed, but also protection of those who will be harassed elsewhere for political or other purposes. So we need, as a House, to put our house in order. I think this is a shameful day that I have to stand as a woman and be able to say, I don't believe what a woman has said. It is saddening. But let us not kid ourselves. Let us do what is right. Tomorrow it will be you who will be accused falsely of sexually harassing. But Mr. Speaker, as I finalize, in case Senator Gloria believes this House is not fair, sexual harassment is an offense under the laws of Kenya. Please let her go to the courts and sue Mr. Nyegenye. And Mr. Nyegenye should also be encouraged. He also has his rights. The fact that he serves us does not mean we take away his rights. He can also go to court to sue on defamation if it turns out that the charges against him are not sustained. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of the punishment, Mr. Speaker, I would be among those who say maybe let's give her half the time, not the full 6 months. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Senator Boni Karwale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may our collective resolve and decision this afternoon raise the bar and improve the respect for women in politics. Mr. Speaker, similarly, may it strengthen Parliament. 2 points. In the House of Commons, when the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Boris Johnson, the one who led Britain to exit the EU, he was one of the most remarkable leaders in the history of the European Union. But when he was found with misdemeanor going to a party against COVID-19 rules, and then he was asked to speak to it, he misled the House instead of admitting and saying, I am sorry. And for that reason, the Prime Minister was put before the Powers and Privileges Committee of the House of Commons, the equivalent of this committee that we are debating today. And powerful as he was, he submitted himself and presented evidence, and using a team of competent lawyers, and he was removed because they were protecting the House of Commons. Senator Gloria has been given an opportunity to go and defend herself on her allegations. She has refused. What do you call it? It's called, in English, it's called contempt. She was contemptuous of the committee. And as if it was not enough, Mr. Speaker, she was contemptuous of the clerk's team because her accusations were leveled against the CEO. And Mr. Speaker, going on the social media group, she was equally contemptuous of all of us. So we have to protect this House by agreeing with the committee. Number two, the woman. And I want to speak mainly to the nominated senator from Samburu and the nominated senator from Mombasa. You are young people, and we love young people because we have some in our houses. Mr. Speaker, it's up to them. They can say and say the good things they have said, but as with the benefit of hindsight, many years of experience, we want to guide them as follows. Instead of you pursuing that trajectory, go and read tonight the story of Grace Onyango. Grace was the woman who broke the glass ceiling for a woman to be elected MP in Kenya. She was truly a graceful Luo woman. Mr. Speaker, let them tonight go and read the story of Chelagat Mutai. Chelagat Mutai was a great woman. She is a hero of the second liberation of this country. She was detained, she was exiled, but Chelagat Mutai never walked on her knees. Who are these young people who want to lecture us when we know the story of Chelagat Mutai? Mr. Speaker, tonight, these young women should go and read the story of Phoebe Asio. Phoebe Asio was in this house. Phoebe was a great woman. She was MP, and because of that distinction, Phoebe was named ambassador to the UN in charge of development funds for women in the world. Give us a break. If you have time, and you must have it, young senators, women, Go and read the story of Professor Wangari Muta Madai from Nyeri. She won the Nobel Peace Prize. She was an MP in Nyeri. Mr. Speaker, bear with me. I want to move along with these young people. They think they say anything about them. If the young lady from Meru, if I just give you the photograph of Zinzi, my daughter, you look the other way. She is something. And let me tell you guys, we have to talk to these young people the truth. We are training them to do it better. We were trained by Michael Kijana Wamalwa, Martin Shukuku, and George Anyona. That's why we are good.
Senator Mboni Kalwale,
Mr. Speaker, sir.
with your experience as a legislator,
Yes.
and as seen in this house, avoid calling honorable members people. And,
Sorry, I'm
and
very
young
sorry.
Women.
Sorry, I thought when I say young people, it was respectful, but
Yeah.
I recall those words.
Just refer to them
Thank you.
honorably.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, sir, when I quote the name of my daughter, Zinzi, we named her after Zinzi Mandela, the daughter of Nelson Mandela. The daughter of Nelson Mandela is one of the most decent people in South Africa. Mr. Speaker, sir, Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to appeal to the nominated senator from Mombasa. One of the greatest senators in the history of this Senate is nominated Senator Agnes Zani. Tonight, go and read the story and the contribution of Dr. Agnes Zani in this house. Don't talk about youth, women, youth, women. What kind of youth, what kind of woman? It is what you should be telling us. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will not stop without reminding ourselves that the first woman to run for president, Charity Ngilu, has been in this space. She has never abused anybody. She just looks for votes and she defeats men. Mr. Speaker, sir, the first woman to break the
Just a
glass
minute,
ceiling.
Senator Boni. Senator Hezena Lemaretian, do you have a point of order? What is your point of order?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it in order for Senator Boni, with all his wisdom and experience being in this house as an elder, is it in order for him to keep referring to us or to address you directly? And secondly, why is he using this opportunity to label us and character assassinators and compare us to other people? The fact that we rose on the floor of this house to defend a woman whom I termed as assertive does not mean you start attacking the person of my character. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I leave it to you, but if you allow me, let me help her. That in standing orders is called being frivolous. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to
Senator Boni
conclude
Karwale,
this paragraph.
Senator Hezena is equally the angel of Sinzi. So handle her with a lot of care, with the
Okay,
kid
so
gloves.
let me help her.
Yes.
I want to carry you along. I'm carrying you along, my daughter. And I can assure you, I'm very tough on my daughters. And I'm not saying they are good, but I'm very tough on them. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want these people who are driving this gender thing to know that there is a great woman in this country. She's old. She's called Nyiva Mwendwa. Nyiva broke the glass ceiling. Nyiva became minister. And Nyiva, for all the years she was in this parliament, I was with her here in the 9th parliament. She never said that a man is looking at me. Nyiva is truly beautiful. Yes. And because of those many words, Mr. Speaker, because of those many words, let me tell parents out there and the parents who are in there, all the time, tell your daughters that before you get a partner who could possibly marry you, a man must approach you sexually. So when he's approaching you sexually, it means it doesn't mean he's harassing you. He's trying his luck. It is up to you to say, no, I don't want, and it ends there. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to appeal to all of us, including the men, about these clerks you are seeing.
Senator Boni Carol, there's a point of information from Senator Beatrice.
Beatrice.
Do you want to be
Thank you, Mr.
informed?
Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and thank you, Bonnie, for allowing me to inform you that you needed to add, on top of the gracious women you have named, just say they are people, they have beauty with brains. Beauty with brains. Some of the beauties have no brain. That is the information I was.
Mr. Clerk, Mr. Speaker, sir, I didn't know what was coming. I want to appeal to all of us, my colleagues, with maximum respect. These clerks who are seated here, it's just a question of making a decision. They can become senators. They can become MPs. They can become presidents. Let us stop looking down on them. After all, in my community, Honorable Wafula, he was a clerk here processing our visas and passports. Wafula became the Member of Parliament of Elderville. In this house today, the Member of Parliament of Matungu in Kakamega, Honorable Peter Oscar Nabulindo, was a clerk here. I want clerks to be free. I have just come from Finland and Estonia, and we were just the two of us. Clerk, young Kavata, and myself. Supposing young Kavata then took to social media and said, when we were there, yule mzee alijaribu kufanya kitu. Mr. Speaker, we have to discourage this. Finally, this problem of name dropping on sexual grounds is extremely dangerous. When they were unable to contain Dr. Martin Luther King, the way some people in this parliament have been harassing Nyegenye for years, when they were unable to contain Dr. Martin Luther King, they said that the great
Senator
moral
Bone,
leader.
where we are at the moment, let's avoid mentioning staff by their names, especially staff.
Thank
Please
you.
avoid that.
I said Nyegenye because his name is in this.
You went with a staff member because, it's not important.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I'm guided, but I mentioned Nyegenye because his name is in the report.
No.
But I just wanted to say.
Your wisdom should be able to guide you on those.
Thank you. You are almost an elder like me, almost. I wish you many years. Mr. Speaker, they almost destroyed Dr. Martin Luther King. When they failed, they shot him. Guys, ladies and gentlemen, honorable senators, there was a great child of Africa whose parents went to the US as slaves. And the only thing the little boy knew was that he could box. And he became probably, arguably, the best boxer in the mega history of boxing. Mike Tyson was destroyed by an allegation of sex. Mr. Speaker, Mason Greenwood, one of the most talented teenagers in football from the Manchester United Football Academy, was almost destroyed because of a mere allegation of sex. And do you know what the lawyers told Mason? They told him, go and marry that girl. The girl has a son with Greenwood. She is Greenwood's wife. Can I just conclude? I'll take it. She's Greenwood's wife, but busybodies of gender and things, they keep on pushing until Greenwood is unable to kick a ball for a whole 1 year. Finally, Mr. Speaker, finally, even the people think are devils. I'm a private and confessed admirer of the courage and openness of former President Donald Trump. To destroy Donald Trump, they played the sex card. We have to stop this. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, the word sex is in this report, that's why I'm using it. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to stop it, because without sex, none of us would be in this house. We are products of sex.
So, Senator Boni, I can see, Senator Boni,
Yes, yes.
I can see you have exhausted all your
I
issues.
accept to be informed. I accept.
Okay, now, what is your point of order, Senator Sige?
I was informing. I believe Senator Boni did not desire to be informed. Otherwise, I think he should have.
It is now overtaken
Mr.
by
Speaker,
event.
I rise pursuant to Standing Order 10913. I have not spoken to this motion. And in the circumstances pursuant to that Standing Order 10913,
Senator Wakili.
Mr. Speaker, I rose
Senator Wakili,
pursuant
I am on
to...
your point
Yes.
of order 109, but allow Senator Boni to finish. Yes. And maybe we hear one or two more senators, and then you raise that issue. Boni Karoere, you have one minute. 10
Mr.
seconds.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude by attempting to carry Senator Morangu with the rest of us. He has said this report should be rejected because 5 men signed. He has forgotten that on that committee, there was the gracious Senator Shakila Abdallah. Shakila Abdallah,
Senator Boni,
yes.
just go down your gears because almost concluding. Your time is over. I can see from you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I therefore support the committee's report because I believe that if we punish our child, it is in keeping with the age-old phrase that spare the rod, spoil the child. I support.
Thank you. Next is Senator Mwinyi Haji Mohamed Faki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this debate on the report of the Powers and Privileges Committee of the House. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want to state that the House has its own rules, and we have to live by those rules. And after saying so, I have listened to the debate, and I want to propose an amendment to this report. I beg to move that the motion be amended by deleting the word full stop at the end of the motion and inserting thereon the following. That A, subject to the amendments of the recommendations appearing on page 66 of the report, by deleting the words for the remainder of the second session of the 13th Parliament appearing in paragraph 1 and substituting therefore the words until 31st of October 2023. 2, deleting the words the remainder of the second session of the 13th Parliament, appearing in paragraph 2 and inserting thereof the following words: in place thereof for the duration referred to in paragraph 1. And finally, number 3, deleting the words for the third session appearing in paragraph 3 and inserting thereof in November 2023. In essence, I'm moving that the report be amended and that the suspension be for the period from today, if the motion is carried, up to 31st of October 2023. Bearing in mind that she's a first offender, and even in our courts of law, first offenders are treated leniently. And we have had a lot of contributions from many members saying that the punishment that has been proposed in the report is a bit excessive in view of the fact that she's a first offender, although the other reason that she's a lady is not very serious, because we know even ladies commit serious crimes in this world. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move that the report be amended in those terms, and I invite Senator Muma to second the amendment. Thank you.
Senator Catherine Muma.
Do you want somebody else to second? Huh? Mr. Speaker, I oppose.
Under senators, the effect of that amendment, since we did not get a seconder, so the amendment is dropped. We cannot carry it. So we proceed. So now I can now take the point of order from Wakili Sigei.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for once again giving me the opportunity to rise pursuant to the standing order number 109, 1 and 3. And Mr. Speaker, I rise to propose that the mover be now called upon to reply.
Sorry, I want a seconder so that I can move the question. On this, Okay. No. Senator Wakili, that's okay. Now I want to put the question that the mover be now called upon to reply. As many of the same opinion say aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay. There is of it. So, mover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yeah. I first want to thank the members for their contribution, for those who were for the report and those who are against. I really thank you all for your contributions. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by saying that me as a person or the committee, we have nothing against the member who we are deliberating about her issues today. Our concern are the issues which have been brought to this House, and that is why we are here today to deliberate those issues so that we put to a stop to any member who would go the same way. Mr. Speaker, as a Senate, this House needs to be respected. It needs to be protected. And that is why we have this Power and Privilege Committee to take care of all the disciplinary actions against any members who go against the laws and the rules of the House. Mr. Speaker, we have to know that we are all here temporarily. We are here as one. We are not here to fight. We are here to work and serve this country. And we would meet anywhere, at any point, at any day after we leave this House. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very important and imperative that we keep respect to each other, and we carry ourselves with decorum and integrity. Mr. Speaker, if anybody has any problem or a member has any issue with anybody, there are channels to be followed for one to get justice. But to go abusing the members, the staff, it is not the right channel for a honorable member to do when you are in this House. You are supposed to be an example to others who are here and outside. Mr. Speaker, seduction, or if one is seduced, is not a crime. Because as a woman, if you are seduced, it means you are attractive and beautiful. And if you are not seduced, you should ask yourself, what is your problem? So for somebody to be seduced, it's not a crime. It is a normal and a natural thing. Mr. Speaker, we are here as only 67 members out of 50 million Kenyans. And that is not a coincidence. We are all here for different reasons. Some of us are elected and some are specially elected. So, Mr. Speaker, if you have that opportunity to be here, you should carry yourself with respect and decorum and maintain the integrity of this House and of you as a person. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said. I really want to take this opportunity to apologize to the clerk for what he has been put through and to say sorry on behalf of the Senate. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I want us as a whole to pass this report. Please put the question. I thank you all. Thank you very much.
Honourable Senators, Senator Mutinda, and the Chair, Budget. Honourable Senators, we have come to the end of that debate, and I want to determine that this matter does not affect the counties. Therefore, I want to put the question that, Honourable Senators, I now put the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Committee of Powers and Privileges on the inquiry on its own motion into conduct of Senator Gloria Orwoba'S MP, and to establish if the conduct constituted breach of parliamentary privilege laid on the table of the Senate on Wednesday, 9th August 2023. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Next order. Senator Wakiri Sigei, approach the chair kindly.
Order number 9, motion consideration of the nominee for appointment as the chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Kenya.
Okay. Vice Chair, Standing Committee on Finance and Budget, Senator Mutinda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do rise on a notice of motion for the I do beg to move, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I do beg to move that the Senate adopts the joint report of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning of the National Assembly and of the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget of the Senate on the vetting of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi for appointment as the chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Kenya, which was laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday 19th, and that pursuant to Section 11(2)(a) of the Central Bank of Kenya Act and Section 8(1) of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, the Senate approves the appointment of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi to the position of chairperson of the Board of Central Bank of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, as a committee, and I sit in this committee as the Vice Chair of Finance and Budget. And we were able to sit with our counterparts, our colleagues from the National Assembly, on the Committee of Finance and National Planning, to be able to do a joint vetting of none other than Mr. Andrew Musangi. And this was guided by the employment and regulations within the Act. Mr. Musangi was able to appear before the committee, and Mr. Musangi was accompanied by a very vast curriculum vitae for himself. Mr. Musangi holds a bachelor's degree, Mr. Speaker, in the University of Hull, which is a law degree. Further to that, Mr. Musangi also holds a postgraduate in law from the Kenya School of Law. And he was able to exhibit an experience of over 28 years, both in the corporate sector from the different banking sectors to different law firms in this country. In his CV, it was clearly indicating his different roles as director, as appropriator, as a chairperson. And during our vetting process, members were very keen to be able to get to understand how he's going to undertake his roles as the chairperson of CBK. This was very keen because, Mr. Speaker, putting in mind what our committee entails and what it partakes, and also putting in mind where we are as a country in terms of matters debt, in terms of the rate for the dollar. So the committee was very keen and was very robust in thoroughly vetting Mr. Musangi, and we were able to get very convincing feedbacks, ranging from the strategies that is going to be able to put in place to ensure that he improves the policies that are needed to be implemented as guided by the different guiding sections of the law, so as to be able to improve the policies that are set. Mr. Speaker, we were able to ask and question Mr. Musangi in regards to what time he's going to put into this new role. Putting in mind that in his CV, he had been able to state that he's still a director with his private firms and different companies. And he was able to clearly communicate to the committee that he has been able to delegate the same roles to his different management teams in the different firms, and is ready and willing to ensure that he puts the required time of the work that is entailed in his role as the chair of Central Bank. At the same time, Mr. Speaker, as you know, I've been very passionate and concerned about the fraudulent bank withdrawals in this country. I had a great opportunity in this platform, Mr. Speaker, during this vetting period, and I was able to ask the incoming chair if he is aware of these cases, and if so, then what will be his strategy? And I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, to say that he was able to clearly state actually his parent had been a victim of fraudulent withdrawal from the bank, and it's a matter that he's going to prioritize when he settles in office, and I was very impressed with that particular feedback. Questions ranged from the issues of cryptocurrency in this country, his views in terms of what he sees and what he thinks about cryptocurrency, he was able to bring out. We dealt also on his worth as a business person, as a person, and he was able to honestly and clearly indicate that he was worth about 1.1 billion. And this is someone who has done his own investments, and it really came out that he's much more focused on ensuring that he's going to put his skills and his required time to be able to improve on the policies at CBK. He was able also, Mr. Speaker, to really bring out the issues of good governance and good leadership as we went down during this vetting process, and they really came out very, very well from Mr. Musangi. Mr. Musangi, also having been in different organizations, he's averse with the different culturals within this country, and is able to interact and work well with different groups from different dynamic cultures and regions in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do also note that there was so much commitment from both sides from National Assembly, which I will take this opportunity to highly thank the colleagues from the National Assembly on their commitment, on how we walked this vetting process to the point that we did the reporting. Of course, Mr. Speaker, as I've always stood here, I've really appreciated the Secretariat. And I want really to also take this opportunity to appreciate the finance, both houses, the Secretariat team for the National Assembly, of course, and for the Senate on the vast and robust work that they were able to do during this particular process and the reporting. It was very, very well put. I can't, Mr. Speaker, forget to thank my colleagues, led by none other than Senator, Governor, Captain, Honorable Ali Roba, who has led this committee very well, who have had a very great opportunity to be able to serve as his vice chair. And I'm very proud of him because he's really given me a lot of guidance. He's given me a lot of support that I really appreciate. I can't forget the other senators. We have Senator Eddy, we have Senator Faki. We have also the leader, one of the greatest leaders. We have none other than Senator Boni Halwale. We have Senator Shakila, Joyce Correll, Senator Tabitha Karanja, and Senator Onyonka, who have been very supportive during this process. We've worked this journey together as a committee, and I really, really so much appreciate the efforts that as colleagues they put to ensure we execute the business of this committee, putting in mind that our business is normally timelined business. And so we really have to go out of our way to ensure we do timely bills, timely approvals like this that you see. Previously, we had an opportunity to vet the deputy governor, that is Madam Susan, and a process that we executed so well. For me, it has been quite a very good learning process that has made me be able to learn a lot during these processes as required. All said about the candidate, He's a very qualified candidate. He's up to task, he's able to deliver, he's able to set the time that is required. And I'm very confident that he's going to deliver. And I really want to thank the President for nominating Mr. Andrew Musangi for this position. He's a calm person who knows what he's supposed to be doing. So I want to wish him the best, and hope that we are going to have many much more achievables as we move forward. At this time, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move, and I do request that Senator Boni Halwale seconds this motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, for giving me the opportunity to second your motion. Mr. Speaker, sir, Andrew Mukite Musangi is one of the children of this country who truly is living the Kenyan dream. He's a boy who took himself to Alliance High School, went to university in the UK, came back, established his own law firm, was not employed by anybody, and Mr. Speaker, he succeeded. The young man has spoken to integrity. He's saying, I'm a billionaire, but I can explain where my wealth came from. Behind some of these so-called rich Kenyans, there is a story of corruption behind them, speaking to the offices they held in the public service. But he is a young man using his own law practice, using his business acumen and prowess. He's been able to grow into a billionaire. He can take care of our money. My last point, as I second this motion, Mr. Speaker, is to thank the President for giving Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi an opportunity to be the chairman of the Central Bank of Kenya. I equally want to thank members of the National Assembly. When this motion for approval went before them, they unanimously allowed Andrew to become our chairman. A word of advice to Andrew. You're going into central bank when the shilling is dropping every day. You have to do something. You are going to central bank when, Mr. Speaker, the De La Rue company that was printing Kenya currency has suspended its operations. You have to do something because we have to continue printing currency. Mr. Andrew, you're going to the Central Bank of Kenya when now we are entering into the new era of digital transactions. And because we have a lot of whiz-kids that abound from Alliance High School where you are, we have a lot of brilliant little children from the University of Nairobi. You have to forever remain alert and protect us because these whiz-kids can blow people's accounts. I know my good friend and my vice chair had her account blown up. That's why she'll never miss an opportunity to insist that our accounts must be protected. With those many remarks, I second the motion as moved. Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable Senators, I now propose the question that the Senate adopts the joint report of the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning of the National Assembly and the Standing Committee of Finance and Budget of the Senate on the vetting of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi for appointment as the chairperson of the Board of Directors of the Central Bank of Kenya, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 19 September 2023, and that pursuant to Section 11, subsection 2A of the Central Bank of Kenya Act and Section 8, subsection 1 of the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act 2011, The Senate approves the appointment of Mr. Andrew Mukite Musangi to the position of chairperson of the board of the Central Bank of Kenya. Honorable members, I can see there is a lot of interest on members who seek to contribute to this particular motion, and I would like to call upon members. Senator Karungo Thangwa, Paul.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this great opportunity to support this report, to have a chairman of Central Bank of Kenya, Mr. Andrew Musangi. Mr. Speaker, I know the chairman comes at a time where the country is asking itself which way to go when it comes to cryptocurrency. According to the report, Mr. Speaker, the chairman was not very clear when it comes to cryptocurrency. He did not support it 100%, neither did he oppose it 100%. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about inflation, and I believe one of the contributors of inflation is probably cryptocurrency, because over 6.1 million Kenyans own a crypto in the crypto world. That is dollars, money Kenyans have invested online. Mr. Speaker, if we continue to shy away from cryptocurrency, it's going to look like a black market. And Kenyans will be hiding their money or saving their money in the cryptocurrency, awaiting to get a few more extra cryptos. So that, because it is something that they use to earn money. Mr. Speaker, I am a believer of cryptocurrency. I actually own a few coins because I want to understand it. Mr. Speaker, some people call crypto scam. If you think crypto is a scam, start yours. It is just a technology of blockchain, Mr. Speaker. You know, there are two countries in the world that use Bitcoin or cryptocurrency as their legal tender. That is the El Salvador and the Central African Republic, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Central Bank of Kenya should send a delegation to those countries to go and understand how a country like El Salvador has allowed Bitcoin to be their legal tender. How a country like the Central African Republic uses legal tender, Bitcoin as a legal tender. Instead of fighting cryptocurrency in this country, let's regularize it, Mr. Speaker. Let's have the CMA, Capital Markets Authority, the Central Bank of Kenya, and anybody who is doing the stockbrokers that we do have. Because crypto is just like shares, Mr. Speaker. It's only that they happen online. I don't know whether you know, if I tell you this, Mr. Speaker, M-Pesa is like crypto because it is digital money passing through electronic to another electronic. Bonga points, they are like tokens, Mr. Speaker. That is a crypto that can be used, or it is accepted by the Kenyans. That's why we buy things using bonga points. Mr. Speaker, we buy token, electricity, power tokens on our phones, and we get some digital and we feed them somewhere, and it becomes power. Mr. Speaker, that is the technology that is behind a cryptocurrency. Mr. Speaker, I believe after this Senate should invite the gentleman we are just about to approve here, Andrew Musangi, as the chairperson. We should also invite the governor of Central Bank to come and give a very, very well-researched and written report on what they think about cryptocurrency, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this country raises money from the public through bonds, treasury bonds. Mr. Speaker, it is a manual experience. But if we were to go the blockchain way, the cryptocurrency way, even a watchman in India can send some money to our treasury bonds so that we fund government projects. And of course, refund the money back once the value of that token or that crypto goes up, Mr. Speaker. I think I use this opportunity to tell Mr. Musangi, you can revolutionize the way we handle currency in this country if you are to allow cryptocurrency in every youth. Mr. Speaker, look what happened at KICC. Over almost 2 million young people came out to have their eyeballs scanned because of a cryptocurrency called WorldCoin. Instead of fighting cryptocurrency, let's embrace it because our youth believe in that. Let us use it so that we can raise money to do projects. And of course, let our youth trade in cryptocurrency. They do understand that. They make a living. And I want to tell you here and now, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, in the year 2000 during Corona, because that is the time I took enough time to study, to read about blockchain, about crypto, I made a few coins from it, Mr. Speaker. And my family and my friends could not go hungry for those who did it. So it is working. So central bank, the treasury, it is a high time we embrace cryptocurrency so that we stop losing money through a black market, through online channels and exchanges where we have put our money in there, waiting for it to get some interest. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I say I do support this report. And finally, as I conclude, Mr. Speaker, we need to do research. We need to do research on our currency, Mr. Speaker. I think we just print our currency and we do not probably follow what other countries are doing, Mr. Speaker. I know this is controversial, but in America, they say America owes itself over 34, trillion dollars. But it owes itself, the government owes itself that money. How do they owe themselves that money? It's because they print more money. And then they calculate that as a debt, which they are supposed to collect and probably ban or remove it from the reserve, Mr. Speaker. Even Kenya, we can go that direction to spur development. Look at Thika Road. Look at the bypasses. The one in Ruiru, from the airport all the way to Ruaka. That road has created jobs. So if that road was done through that kind of, it's called deficit, it's called deficit balances, Mr. Speaker. So that if it can spur growth, the government can, of course, borrow from itself
Senator
through printing.
Kangwa, you still have got 12 more minutes to conclude on your contribution when this motion resumes in the floor of the House. And now, honorable members, it is now 6:30 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 21st September 2023 at 2:30 p.m.